All right, so here at Nick's shop, Acton Custom, you saw me here back a few episodes ago working on the lathe, turning these bushings down. And he felt I was ready to take the next step and start TIG welding.
I've seen you TIG welding before. No beginner's luck there.
Well, I appreciate his confidence. I've already mentioned it in previous episodes that all these years that I've done my own fabrication work, it's always been MIG. My dad's always used this MIG welder, and we haven't used the TIG welder that he's bought recently. So Nick thinks it's time to take the next step and level up. So I will answer the call, and you guys are coming along with me to see how this goes. I'm not going to be surprised if he's cleaning everything up for me at the end.
You've got good eyes, a steady hand, and you're just so freaking hungry for it.
Yeah.
To do it.
This is something I've wanted to do for a while, though. I've said that before. I've wanted to get into TIG welding and actually dive down this rabbit hole and get good at it. Got to start sometime, right?
So you see what I've got going on here. I've clamped it down so that that's pushing down
Exactly, yep.
against this. And I'm going to get a couple of spots just to hold it.
Okay, so Nick had me make a couple TIG passes of my own, and I had a hard time kind of finding the symphony of all that stuff. So when it came down to actually welding the parts, I was hoping, I'm sure Nick was too, that I was going to have at least one of these welds was going to be mine. They're not. They're all Nick's. So, but they look better and they're done right. So if anything, this has helped motivate me to go home and fire my dad's TIG welder up, which neither of us have really used that much, and deep dive with TIG welding and get good at it.
Like I said, driving a standard transmission, you watch somebody do that for years, and then you try it yourself. You're like, there's all this stuff going on.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know what.
This looked so much smoother when the other person was driving.
Yeah.
Well, these look great.
Pretty exciting to have it at this point. I was talking about working on customer stuff on Sunday because I've got so much work going on.
Yeah.
And Bonnie said no. She said you work on your car on Sunday. That's, you work on customers during the week.
Yep.
So I've got to put a new sensor in the expansion tank and try and get the thermal fans to come on when you're sitting in traffic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Control the temperature, and I've got to put a replacement speedometer cable in there, and I think I've got to reroute my speedometer. Just some stupid little stuff like that, and I've started fitting up my soft top for it, and if I put the weather gear on it, then I can take off for a weekend in it,
Yep. All right, guys, back from Nick's. Got the steering arms all finished and welded up. Huge thanks to Nick for helping me weld these things up. My plan originally, as I mentioned, was to just MIG weld them up myself here in my father's shop, but knowing full well that they should be TIG, especially for how minute the tapered insert bushing was. And I'm just not, I don't have enough hours behind me on the TIG welder. I'm like, nope, I want these things to look, it's just, I need to practice more. I really need to set time aside in my schedule to practice more. So when a situation like this comes up on a project, I'm ready to go. So Nick got them welded up for me. I did make a couple passes on some scrap, but if anything, it motivated me enough to really set aside time to be down here in my dad's shop and really start practicing on the TIG welder. But that's been on the list for the last 10 years now, and I still find myself taking up my time with other things. I mean, I started the laser engraving business not knowing anything about laser machines I'd never designed in CAD before. I never used a CNC machine before. So I taught myself all that and had to get good at it because that's now my day-to-day job. So I really want to take that type of determination and motivation and apply it to TIG welding and become proficient with it. But the steering arms are done. I'm so happy with them, front and back, top and bottom. Nick did a great job welding them up. They look great. I've had one threaded onto the Mark 1 threaded body. Threads on great. And it's going to be so nice being able to adjust my Ackerman angle on a thread like that and then lock it into place, getting my toe and my Ackerman angle just right. Well, this is what it looks like threaded onto the body. And once I get the rest of the suspension sorted out in the car and get all the airlines run, get the management set up, and the car can go up and down on wheels, basically what I can do is get my range of motion with the bag and the shock sorted out and know how far down the shock and the bag will let me go in relation to where I've got the dropouts for the knuckle threaded on the body. So I'll know if when the shock and the bag are aired completely out and the car is still up a little bit and I want to get it down farther, I'll crank the threads of the dropouts up higher to shorten the overall strut assembly to then lower the car. And then I want to make sure I'll get enough lift out of the car as well. So once I find that happy medium where I've got enough lift, but the car goes as low as I want it to, then I'll be able to thread everything together and use this top lock ring and lock it down once I have my Ackerman angle just right. As you guys can see here, I can literally, like if this is in the car, this is like if you're looking at the passenger side, the steering rod's in the back, I can literally adjust where I need that Ackerman angle to be at my ride height. So when I'll justify where my best ride height will be or the most used ride height and get the Ackerman angle just right and match it on both sides and then tighten the lock ring down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in just a few places, tack weld the tie rod arm to the actual dropouts because these are both threaded on this body. So if I don't weld these two together, the only thing holding this in place and my toe and the wheel in one place is this lock ring. And that would probably be sufficient. But in case of major shock load, like a bridge expansion joint or a deep pothole, I don't want the tie rod from the steering wheel all the way up to this point to be held into place by just that lock ring. It might be okay, but I don't want to risk it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lock that lock ring down once everything's in place and then get up under here and tack weld these together, maybe in just a few places. And that way, not only is that lock ring holding that steering arm in place, but the two bolts that are holding this whole dropout and now the steering arm that is welded to the dropouts, the two bolts holding all that together are bolted to the knuckle, which is bolted to the lower control arm. The axle comes through, the tension rod, sway bar, mounts, and all of that is holding it in place as well. So it'll just be that much more stronger and won't move at all, hopefully. I also got the Mark 1 knuckles all cleaned up and painted as well. So those are ready to go. Basically from here, I'm going to get the snap rings and wheel bearings pressed in so then I can press the Polo hubs in. And now we will have the front hubs and knuckles assembled, ready to go. Steering arms are done and they'll be threaded on the strut bodies. Before I paint the steering arms, I'm going to get everything in the car and get everything in place just in case I have to make alterations to the actual steering arm. If for some reason they get in the way of the wheel, once the wheels are here and I get things on, I don't know, I just don't know yet. So, they're out of the way for the most part from where the wheel is going to be. But basically, before I finish paint everything, I'm just going to make sure I don't need to modify anything at all to where I'll have to strip paint off and do all that. All right, got the knuckles all assembled, wheel bearings in, snap rings in, and the Polo hubs pressed into the early 74 to 1980 Mark 1 Rabbit wheel bearings. This is awesome. I can't thank my friend Joe Stackman in England enough for the little plug that saved me a lot of work. I mean, serious amount of work. I didn't have a YouTube channel back when I built the Derby, but I've mentioned it before on here that I went the long way around converting the Derby to Mark 1 Rabbit or Mark 1 Golf front end suspension components and coilover system by making axles so the outer CV axle spline count would fit the Mark 1 hubs, because the Polo axles have the smaller spline count on the end, and I've explained all this before. So this is huge because I didn't have to make axles on this one, and all Joe plugged was that on his pre-facelift Mark II Polo Coupe that he was able to use the Polo hubs pressed into the Mark 1 bearings, and sure enough, they worked. They weren't going to work with the first Mark 1 wheel bearings that I tried them on, and they must have been 1981 to 84 or 80 to 84 wheel bearings. But I was able to find a wheel bearing that was in a box with a part number at my friend Pete's place. Those had the correct inner dimension, inner diameter for the hub, and here we are. So it was all speculative before. It was all just kind of numbers matching and doing math. But here they are, Mark 1 Rabbit knuckles with Polo hubs pressed into the wheel bearings. We are one step closer. One step closer. We're two steps closer because thanks to Nick Acton helping me weld these tie rod mounts up that we plasma cut on my dad's table here, the steering arms are ready to go now too. And they thread right onto the body. Yes. Yes. Guys, we're getting close. Wheels, I think, will be done next week. And yeah, 3 of the 4 tires showed up. So I got to make a phone call on Monday, make sure that 4th tire will be here this upcoming week. And we're putting front end parts together. We're going to have this car sitting on the ground here pretty soon. All right, that will do it for this episode. Cutting it here. Super productive weekend. Super productive weekend. Excited to move forward this upcoming week. Hopefully make some larger strides this upcoming week as we get closer to when we're leaving and hitting the road for Alpine Volks Fair in Helen, Georgia. We're leaving here May 17th, so just under 3 weeks. Right now, I'm still planning on driving the Polo. I would love to road trip that car to Georgia and back. But a small part of me is thinking if the parts from Europe don't get here in time, all the maintenance parts I need, I'm going to trailer it. But that will ensure that it gets down there, and then we can just cruise around Helen, around the Smoky Mountains, and not have to worry about driving it 22 plus hours all the way back to New Hampshire. So that's still up in the air. It's going to be a photo finish on the car regardless if it gets driven down there or if it goes down on a trailer, but I've yet to decide that. Obviously, road tripping it would be awesome. If you guys know me, I am not nervous to drive old, weird cars the lengths of the earth. I mean, this is what I've been doing forever, and I'm excited to do it, but we'll see. We'll see how it all comes together. Well, that's it for this episode. Next one will be running airline in the Polo and probably getting a lot of this stuff mounted in the car. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next episode.